Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan C.P. Steele, and I will be your nerd today. Today is a special episode, bittersweet and cool. Um, Bittersweet because this weekend was supposed to be Gen Con 2020. Now, they have moved it to a digital format, to Gen Con Online 2020. And I'm planning on sticking my head in some seminars and things like that, where I can. But I don't really have any plans for like in game scheduled or super days worth of funness and things like that. And it's gonna end up being probably a weekend worth of work for me, um, and not the fun convention kind. So it's a bittersweet weekend. Just because I know there's still going to be a lot of people having a good time. I know there's a lot of companies that are going to be having special Gen Con sales, Gen Con Online 2020 products, things like that. Um, but nothing really replaces the real deal. And to know that myself and several hundred thousand other nerds and geeks and gamers and dorks were supposed to be down in Indy this weekend, just going crazy, but we can't because of this whole COVID-19 virus thing, and that there's a lot of people that are questioning whether or not we're ever going to have conventions that size again, and it's going to be kind of a tough weekend to get through and stay positive. Um, so hopefully all goes well. I will maintain my positivity by making a bunch of cool new stuff. Um, the week in Bryan has been pretty normal. Aside from some minor medical issues dealt with earlier this week, it's just been a lot of writing, a lot of designing, and a little more writing. Like it's been that hasn't been between work on Shadowrun, Spycraft, and my DM's Guild project. I've been spending a lot of time at the keyboard. Not as much time in the hobby area as I would have liked. I've got some commissions that need to get done. Um, One of which I'm going to be working on today. Because today I've decided that it's not only going to be a hobby day, but it's actually product review day. I'm going to get into what the product is here in a second, but one of the things that I'm going to be painting on today, at least one of the things, is from a game that I've mentioned before and how much I love it, and what I was unaware of until I got my most recent shipment from Armor Class 10, my T-shirt sponsor here for the show, is they do official Dust 1947 merchandise. They apparently made a deal with the Paolo and Greg and those guys at Dust, and they actually get to do their shirts. So they sent me a Dust 1947 shirt, and I'm like, you know what, better way to celebrate, besides the fact that I'm going to be working, showing off a product, but also painting some Dust stuff, than wear Dust merch from my sponsor. How cool is that? Um, Aside from that, I know I normally ramble on for many, many hours, figuratively. I'm being hyperbolic. Um, I normally ramble on a long time about all the stuff that I'm working on, whatever, but a lot hasn't changed since last week, so it's mostly just Shadowrun novel, Spycraft, DM's Guild project, a little bit of Warzone here and there. Just basically it's that same. I'm almost in a routine of getting that same stuff worked on again and again and again until something gets done or something new lands in my lap. But since today is a hobby day, I want to get over there to that hobby rig because today should also be the first day in a while that I've got my 2 camera rig working again, which would be awesome. Hopefully we'll see how it goes when I get over there. Um, but yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting some paintbrush to model and um, talking about stories. Probably tell some Gen Con stories to explain why I'm working on a dust model and not some other things. You know how it is. But before we get over there, I do want to point out the the primary reason and the name for this episode is Steve Makes, which is a company run by a very, very close friend of mine. He fabricates different types of devices. He is one of the smartest human beings I've ever met, and he is an engineer. So he comes up with these great ideas. And I remember when he made he made a paint shaker for one of our friends. He has made all kinds of like brush stands and terrain helpers and game widgets and all that kind of stuff. But a couple weeks ago, he posted up that he made something that, for hobby painters like myself, it seemed simply genius. Like it was just, that's the smartest thing I've ever seen. And what he calls it is a paint bunker. Here's one right here. It's made out of unbelievably dense plastic. It's got his little SM for Steve Makes logo on there. And when we get over to the hobby rig, I'll show you what this does. It basically protects you from knocking over annoying paint pots. And not that a lot of time am I using paint pots anymore, but there are still quite a few paint companies out there that are using pots instead of droppers, and these are going to be indispensable for hopefully keeping the lid open, keeping it from falling over. Definitely when it comes to my inks and shades, the number of times those tiny little lightweight bottles have gotten knocked over, and bam, there goes $6 worth of your ink. Or worse yet, ink spills everywhere, all over everything. These are little inexpensive, as he calls them, paint bunkers, to hold those paint pots not only still for your use, but also safely, so they don't get knocked over. So they, these are really cool. And I wanted to show you, since today was going to be a hobby day anyway, I really wanted to show you guys these things in action. So I will make sure to get some of the pots out that I want to put in these, just to show you how these work, because it's really cool. And again, Steve is a brilliant guy who I will put his information, his company information, in the descriptor of the video. But just in case, if you're one of those types that forgets, his name of his company is Steve Makes, and it's Facebook Steve B Makes, Etsy Steve B Makes, and his email address is steveb.makes@gmail.com. So, and here's, I've got his business card to make sure all that stuff goes through, and I'll like I said, I'll put it in the I'll put it in the description of the video too, so you guys can find this stuff. But these are going to be indispensable for, especially, so a lot of people who don't use paint palettes or don't use paint trays or wet palettes, who dip straight from the pot. That's the number one way people knock over their paints, or the lids get closed and, oh, you gotta put my bottle on my brush and everything down. These are gonna help that, and I'm gonna show you how here in a second. Aside from the product that I want to talk about today, let's go ahead and just get over and start painting. Let's see how much we can get done on a couple of dust models today. All right, see you in a sec. Alright, so here we are in the hobby rig again. Sorry about the unbelievable brightness in my window. I still haven't gotten my shades put up yet, and I thought the little the regular drapes would keep out the seemingly heavenly bright, snow bright light. Hopefully here, when I change the cameras back for you to be able to see what's going on, it won't bother you so much. But yeah, so here we are in the hobby zone, and we're going to show you how Steve Makes paint bunkers work, and then we're going to do a little painting on a couple of little dust ladies. Well, technically it's the same lady. You'll get it. I'll tell you here in a second. All right, so let's see if this new rig sets up. Will it work? It does! does. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so what we're doing is we are going to be painting on, I actually don't remember this gal's name for the life of me. She is one of the characters from the Mythos faction. I am really close to that second camera. I'm going to see if I can't pull that zoom back some because, wow. Nope, that's the opposite direction. Okay. Yeah, no, it looks like I just got to be real careful not to get super up in the grill. See if I can move it back just a little bit. No. It's always a learning process. All right, so I don't remember what this character's name is, but I can zoom in a little bit with this one. I know that. Whoop. All right, so she comes to the table. She is one of the Cthulhu Mythos characters. She comes to the table. Man, just like this, where she's just her human self, sacrificial knife, submachine gun on her back. You know, she is ready to lead her followers into battle. But then at a certain point, she kind of unfolds into this mouthed monster demon thing. And then during the game, if she eats somebody with this nasty mouth, she basically heals herself back to being herself. So what's really cool is obviously it's the same baseline sculpt. You know, they took the same, effectively like the same model itself. And man, I am way close to that thing. I don't know if I like that rig now that I'm thinking about it, but oh well. And then they added this extra sculpted super mouth monster part on there. So it only makes sense to paint them at the same time, so I can keep the shades and everything together as best as possible. I'm going to take a sip of my drink real quick, and then I'm going to show you how cool these paint bunkers are from steveb.makes. So I've got three of these wonderful laddies. Now he made two different types. There's the standalone kind that are just, you know, here you go, boom, whatever. And then he also sells them with magnets, so that way if you've got multiple colors you're using at the same time, something along those lines, you can line them all up and they stack, you know, magnets on both sides, that sort of thing. Now, for obvious reasons, because they are a different shape, they don't, no magnet to the singular versions. So if you ever thought you were going to, you know, if you decide to go over to steveb.makes and pick up these, if you think you're going to buy more than one, go ahead and get the magnet ones, because then they'll store easier. They don't take up nearly as much space. And if you've got 2 or 3 shades that you want to use at the same time, you can hold them all at the same time at the same place. I've got the 2 different versions here, so either way. All right, so let's find a couple of paint pots to test out in these wondrous devices. So they are designed pretty much. There are the Citadel paint pots, and Citadel. I'm out of camera frame. The Citadel paint pots have been a long-standing kind of love-hate relationship for a lot of painters, because their lids they're held together with this plastic hinge, and when you pop them open, they don't always, you know, this one's staying pretty stiff because it's a technical paint, but they don't always stay that way. Like, let me get my crimson. This is a notorious one for me because I use this a lot. When I pop this open, all right, first off, you know, knocking paint. See, get in your thing. First off, popping it open is more trouble than it's worth. But now that hinge has been used so many times, it's just floppy. It's just bloop, 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 bloop. With, I feel like I'm doing an infomercial. With one of the Steve Makes paint pot bunkers, you can basically, you pop it into the slot, but you'll note that's just to hold it there. The thing that made me go, okay, these are the coolest thing ever, is if you open the lid and put it through the little arms, it's designed specifically not only to keep it open, but to keep it level. So it doesn't spill that drop, that top little lip that a lot of people use to paint from. And it works with the tall ones too. Those bars are tall enough that bonk, 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 but like I would be very hard pressed. So I'm not going to do it with one of the open ones just in case I make a fool out of myself. But let me close these up so they don't dry out on me. Get them back over there. Boop, 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 boop. But like, see here on the singular one, I've got my technical paint in there. But like, I'm hitting this with a pretty significant amount of force, and I had to actually like hit it from below, specifically like with an uppercut to knock it over. So it is, whereas something like this normally, the back end of your brush, you're working on something, you could accidentally tip it over really easy. With this now, I really have to try to knock something over if it's in one of the bunkers. So I'm digging the heck out of these. For anybody who uses the Citadel paint pots, I thought I had a couple of the P3, the old school P3 paint pots as well, but I seem to have gone through them, so I don't have or repackaged them, so I can't test that with there. But Steve has specifically designed these to work with the Citadel paint pots currently. And like I said, for the regular paint, we've all spilled the occasional bottle of paint. It happens. But where things get really dicey is when you when you have inks or washes, because one of these monsters that this is like a, well, I think they sell these for like $12 at the store, and one clumsy oops, and not only are you covered in ink, and whatever you're painting is probably splashed with it. It's on your brushes, it's on you, it's on your workstation, but you're also out probably a good portion of your ink. I almost want to say get these paint bunkers, whether or not you use them for the regular paints or not, just to get them for washes, just to get them for the washes themselves, because that's like, it is such a great spot, and it keeps the thing open for you. So so I can get in there, I can rub, brush off my excess, and I don't have to worry about the lid popping open or slapping shut on me. They really are cool. And I while I'm not at the wash stage with these models yet today, so I won't be getting the chance to use the bunkers, at least on this project. You will see me use them on future projects, that's for sure. And more importantly, I just wanted to show you how they function, because they are really, really cool. And again, my friend Steve over at Steve Makes is brilliant. I'm sure he's going to come up with more cool stuff. So even if these aren't the things that jump out at you and go, oh my god, I have to get a couple of these, watch him, watch his space, watch his Etsy store, watch his Facebook page, because he's been gaming with me for as long as I've known him, which has been a while. He's been a gamer even longer since before he met me. And he's got that engineer's brain that, like, sometimes he'll see something on like at the table and go, you know what? Huh. I think he already makes dice towers, like dice rolling towers and things. But I expect more really cool game aids and stuff to come out of Steve Makes, because again, he's brilliant. He's one of the smartest people I know. And because he's got that sort of engineer's problem-solving brain, and access to some pretty cool machinery, when he sees something that he thinks that he can either make better or make for the first time that, I've never seen anyone do that before, he'll give it a try and he'll make it happen. And when they work out, like these paint bunkers, expect to see them in for sale, because they're awesome. And I don't mind giving him a shout out. He's not he's one of my buddies, but I don't mind giving him a shout out as a product designer. He's very, very skilled. He's super smart, and he knocks that kind of stuff out of the park. So you're going to see a lot of the top of my head and like one of my eyes, because I can't get this camera in the right spot, which I apologize. Part of the, until I talk to you, I think I'm going to, I don't know. I don't know what I should do. Because sometimes I'll look up to talk to you, and other times I'm going to be down here, trying to get my paint on. So let's just go ahead and start painting and see what happens. Worst case scenario, you guys can ignore part of the screen and go, Brian, you're insane. All right. So these models, these dust models, were already primed. They're primed that kind of purple color. So I don't need to do a base coat. I already did the majority of the base with a different couple of washes, a couple of dry brushes, and then some of the technical paints to build it up so they're not quite so boring. I haven't done the sand of it yet, and I'm going to tell you why. Is because I don't know. Once I get the black and the metal and stuff done on these, I'm probably going to give them a wash, and I didn't want the sand to soak up a bunch of that wash. I didn't want... Yeah, that's way too close. All right, I'm moving this. Executive decision. Don't know where it's going to go. Maybe down here. There we go. Executive decision. I don't like where it was, so... You get to see, maybe, no, if I lean forward enough. I don't know, there's no good place for it. It's all bleached out too because of my overheads. But yeah, basically, I just don't want the whatever wash I use to help undertone all of her capes and folds and things, and stain that metal. I just don't want it to end up taking away from the model completely, where suddenly the sand soaks it all up, and now the sand, because like look at the Migo that I did for the same client. I did. There's some wash on the sand there on the Migo, but if I do a dark wash, I don't want the sand on this guy. They're going to be appearing in the same army. I don't want the sand on this guy to be dark gray or black, and then it doesn't look like. They weren't painted at the same time, so there is that room for error. But I don't want people to see and think, like I don't want my client to bring his army to a thing and then have all of their flocks mismatched because I was lazy and decided to wash after flocking. If that makes any sense. So speaking of dust and taking to tournaments and things. So from what I understand, there's actually some dust events taking place, or at least some seminars or something, at the Gen Con Online, which is pretty cool. I mean, obviously you can't really play miniatures games, up close and personal over the internet. But I know that there are different there are tabletop simulator engines and things like that people can use, and that's pretty cool. That's I'm leaning pretty forward to. That'll help. And so that'll be pretty neat. Or maybe it'll just be people, playing at different locations while they're zooming and talking to other people who are playing. I don't know how it would go down. I wish I could be a part of it. I've just got so much to do. I won't say that I overbook myself, because that's a freelancer's that's a way for a freelancer to tell the universe, hey, stop giving me work, which I don't want to do, obviously. But the number of deadlines and stuff that I've got coming up at the end of August / early September is pretty staggering. I got a lot of stuff going on. Now, luckily, painting-wise, my commission stuff, I'm talking to a guy online. He's talking about having me do some stuff. I'm going to do some step-by-step sculpting for my TikTok followers. So that'll be pretty cool. Which, if you even if you don't ever make any TikTok videos or anything, if you follow me here, you should follow me there, because I do a lot of goofy stuff on that. And over there, I am at the professional nerd. That's it. Just rather than Tales from and all that stuff, I'm just the professional nerd over there. Because that's not cool enough. But I've got this lovely lady and her scary eat your face mode, and then I've got a couple of Lord of the Rings figures for another client, which I'm looking forward to. So I get to do some banner freehand work on that one, which it's weird. I really enjoy doing freehand work. I really enjoy getting to kind of do scroll work and write lettering and things like that, because it challenges me as a painter to get my brush to behave that way. Because I'm very weird. I think I've mentioned this before. I'm kind of a weird purist when it comes to painting. I don't like to do anything but use a brush, or occasionally a stippling sponge or something along those lines. And the grief that I'm talking about here is that a lot of lettering can be done, like sort of scroll work lettering and things like that, can be done very easily with micro pens, basically micro art pens, where they've got the tiniest little dollop of paint at the end of basically a needle. And you can work with it, have much better control of it than a brush. And there's just, I don't know, I won't say that's the way I was raised. There's just something about it. I've tried using micro pens before to help with detail work, and the whole time I'm sitting there telling myself that I feel like I'm cheating. And if you use micro pens, or if you use decals or anything like that on your models, do not let me dissuade you. As long as you are making stuff and performing in the hobby, don't let me talk you out of it. Don't let my partial elitism, brush elitism, keep you away from trying to to paint, whether you're using contrast paints or micro pens or decals galore, or even just the base coat dip method. Whatever you're gonna do, I don't let my personal hang-ups steer you away from doing something cool, because I guarantee, not even not new 40K rules notwithstanding, I don't care if your models are painted or not. I'd rather them be painted. I'd rather you put a little love into your army. But if you don't paint, I'm not gonna put you across, rake you across the coals. And if how you paint requires you to use some of these other, new tips of the trade, then do it. Break out those pens, break out the cool, contrast paint, 2-layer trick or whatever. Do whatever you got to do, because at the end of the day, you're doing more than the person who has chosen not to do anything. And that's significant. There's a comedian that I follow who made a comment. Hang on, sucked in a dust ball. There's a comedian that I follow who made the comment of, you didn't have to do anything. It's very easy to do nothing, and that's really what it comes down to. While I personally am not a fan of the steps that get skipped with contrast paints, or the doing freehand without a brush, doing it with a pen instead, or using decals when I could freehand the same kind of symbol. These are all things that they may personally bother me, because of 30 years of painting has kind of ingrained that in my head. Doing all of those things is still better than not painting, in my opinion. I would rather have somebody look at me and say, yep, I used artist pens on everything, I dipped everything in contrast paints beforehand, and I didn't even prime my models, I just painted the contrast straight on. Every fiber of my being will start screaming. All of the artist fibers in me will go, no, 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 no. But at the end of the day, you're still painting. And that's better than the person who says, I don't want to paint. Or the person who lies to themselves and say, I can't paint. Because the statement, I can't paint, unless you physically can't, like you literally have physical issues that keep you from painting, that should never leave your mouth, because it should always be followed with one small word: yet. Well, I can't paint that good, everything's ugly. No, you can't paint that good yet. You can't paint that fast yet, because like with everything else, it takes practice. The only reason I do what I do is because it was the devotion of my life for decades, sometimes to the chagrin of my parents during college. Whereas I probably should have been studying, instead I was painting models, or instead I was writing my next D&D adventure, and that's the kind of stuff. Whoa, run away! That's the kind of stuff that I believe. Again, I don't want to tell people, quit school and go into gaming, because you're not going to make any money. I'm proof of that. But if it is your passion, if it's what you think you need to do, then at least give it a shot. And so real quick, I'm gonna tell a little story. So on TikTok, there is a guy named whose handle is Dialone Games, Dicealone Games. I don't rightly remember. But he fancies himself an amateur game designer. And he has given himself a task, basically a test, that he will be... He's got a game that he's in the middle of playtesting. He wants to go from starting recording his playtests and getting the rules down to game on Kickstarter in 90 days. And that is a pretty significant feat if he can manage it. I freely admit that's a lot to say to try and get done. And if he does, more power to him. But recently he put up a post where he seemed very, I don't want to say melancholy, but very kind of down on himself concerning the game. That, you know, a lot of people are telling him it's going to take longer than 90 days, and you know, he's trying to rush things, and he's going to come up with a substandard product, and you know, all that stuff. And he wrote this video where he was like, I just want to explain to everybody why I'm doing this. And I responded to him because I understand where he's at. I remember the first time that I had like an adventure idea sitting in front of me, trying to get my editor to give me the okay to have this be what we do on the next Conan book or whatnot. And so I recognize where he's at. And so I wrote him a little response video that basically told him, hey, stick with it, you know. Even if you don't hit your 90 days, you know, even if you don't make the 90-day challenge that you've set for yourself, don't stop. Don't let 90 days be this big disheartening, you know, crush of emotions, because not only are you not going to make the best product you can, but you are also going to be jaded about the finished product if you end up having to bend the knee and do a bunch of stuff that you didn't want to do. So basically, at the end of the day, what I say is, if you've got a project, if you've got a creative element or whatever in your head that you want to get out and you want to make happen, ignore the naysayers, figure out the path of least resistance, you know, financially, unless you are, you know, well taken care of in that regard, and then just try and execute it as quickly and as, you know, efficiently as possible. You know, because the sooner you get up on the DM's Guild or Drive Through RPG or whatever, the sooner that no other game designer could accidentally come up with whatever you were planning. They might not recognize. They might not realize that they've been duped into doing exactly what you wanted them to do all this time. It's just how it is. Man, yeah, it's not Gen Con weekend. I mean, it is, but it's not. And it just, I feel like there's a part of me that is just missing out. I was like that way when Origins came and went. I was like that way when Adepticon came and went. All of these shows are where I get to see my friends, and I get to enjoy, enjoy the company of tens of thousands of hundreds of gamers. So it's hard. It's hard to know that stupid virus, a stupider president, and I dare say stupider people who refuse to protect themselves are making it so we're even further into this just awful, this awful, you know, stemming of socialness, of sociality. Because again, I don't want to be like all wah 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 as me because I have a job. I have multiple jobs. I work from home. I have wonderful children. My wife's amazing. Got all these things going for me, and there are so many people out there, some of which are friends of mine that can't say the same thing, and I don't want to try and say that the fact that I have to deal with these trivial things have any way, shape, or form as to matching up to what they have to deal with or what they had to deal with, because it isn't, and I don't want to. I'm under no circumstances do I want to ever have to deal with some of the things that some of my friends are dealing with right now. And I should not do flesh tone next. I should do a quick dry brush next on that black. But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. Totally lost my train of thought. No, so it's just I feel I have my own little personal pity party that I'm behind on a couple of deadlines, and all my bosses are super they're super understanding. They know what's going on. They know that everybody's dealing with pretty major stuff going on right now, and either all of that aside, it could be totally worse. I'm still getting to play games electronically with some of my friends. The new version of 40K looks amazing. I picked up the my half of 2 Indomitus boxes. It's just I'm very happy. Like, I know that sounds so weird. I'm super happy, but I'm also sad. I'm super happy that the virus / quarantine, aside from sort of being cabin fevery and annoying to me and my family, I haven't had anybody super close to me die from it. One of my best friends got it, but he got a very mild strain, and he managed to beat it without even going to the hospital. And so I look at this and I think to myself, man, I hope this clears up and it is no big deal. But then I think of some of my friends who have watched their friends literally die because of this virus. And I can't separate that in my brain as my troubles are as bad as theirs, because it's not. My troubles are nowhere near as bad as theirs. So when I go into like a bittersweet weekend where, man, I really wish I could be playing some games or sitting around a table with my with my friends from around the world, or having drinks with my convention family and all that, there is a part of me that is very sad that's not happening, and then there's also the part of me that is very happy that I look forward to hopefully all of those people still being around and healthy, and the world being ready for us to do that next year. Because hopefully we will. Hopefully we'll be able to, go back to conventions and, peddle our wares on a grand scale to thousands of, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, depending on the show. It's a different world. It's totally crazy. And I think about I'm painting this dust stuff right now for a client, but I've got my own dust stuff I painted one model of. But even then, I would not have gotten into Dust if it wasn't for my convention family. If it wasn't for Ray and Greg, the guys at Dust, basically sitting me down and saying, "You will like this game if you give it a try. Don't turn your back on it just because of some history with some of the people involved. Just do it." And so I did exactly that. I gave it a shot, and it ended up being a badass game that we really enjoy, and hopefully, if all goes well at some point, maybe I'll even get a chance to do some design work for them as well, because that would be super cool. Oh, you bastish! All right, yeah. So so that's actually a funny convention story. How I got into Dust. For years, one of my friends has worked over at Dust, and I met Gregoire. He's one of the leads, one of the management. I don't know. I don't exactly remember his title, but he's one of the bigwigs over at Dust. And for years, like it was probably 5 years ago, maybe, I met him because we both. We were the chosen industry people to judge an Origins painting competition, and so we kind of hung out for a little while we were judging this painting competition, and I got a chance to get to to talk in and whatnot. And at the end of the competition, he said, "Hey, swing by the booth. It'd be nice to see you," because he knew me through David Preddy and through Paolo, through other business folk that we were associated with. And so that's exactly what I did. I swung past his booth, and at that time, I did not have a whole lot of money. I was not raking in the big bucks, that's for sure. But I chose to swing past his booth, and I took a look at the stuff. And little known fact about Bryan, I am not a history buff. I understand it. I know that we need to learn from it, but I have never been one of those people who are like, give me a good World War II movie, and I'll tell you the history of all of the tanks that you see on screen. I'm not that guy. I'm more likely to be able to tell you the history of Londo Mollari and the Centauri from Babylon 5 than I am a human history war, or a human story about war. It's just how it is. And so looking at Dust initially, even though it's got some cool walkers and stuff, when I initially looked at Dust, I really wasn't impressed, because it's not my shtick. I'm not big into giant tanks and soldiers with regular guns, and everybody's human. Oh, these guys have zombies. Sort of. It did not speak to me at the time. Well, fast forward a little ways, and one of my close buddies, Ray, starts working for Dust, and we're at an Origins, and walking through the lane, and Ray jumps out from behind a giant stack of boxes and says, "Hey, you need to come and get a demo of this game. I know you'll enjoy it." And initially, I kind of was like, "Oh God, I don't want to do this," but I do trust Ray, and I do understand that he knows some of my taste in games, especially miniatures games. So I'm like, I'll give it a shot. And so we sit down, we do a quick demo, and the demo is super fun. We had a good time. The dice mechanics super easy. I kind of dig a little bit of the aesthetic, like the big walking tanks and mech suits and stuff. And then he goes, "Well, let's take a look over in the case and see if there's anything that jumps out at you." as being extra cool. We go over to the case, and in the case, there is, first off, this giant, like 10-inch tall samurai heavy gun mecha, which, while that's not my style, I definitely was like, that's a cool model, and I would be okay facing again. Like, I would be all right being the guy that has to face that. That's what happened. I smeared your thumb, lady. And so I'm like, all right, so you've got me a little bit. You've started to pique my interest. And then he shows me, I believe it was the spawn or the avatar of Nyarlathotep. I can never say that. Basically one of the Cthulhu gods of madness. And I was like, whoa, that is a scary alien. What's going on with that? And he goes, oh, our most recent expansion brought in the forces of Mythos. Basically cultists that worship the old gods. And as soon as he said that, that like kind of fog that normally goes over my eyes when I think about historical games, it lifted, because whether or not this was a historical game, it was a game that was telling a different history. And then Greg came over, and Greg said, have you seen the pictures of the Vril? And I said, what the heck's a Vril? And he goes, Vril are the ancient aliens that are coming back in a future expansion. And he showed me this piece of art that had like this like lizard man warrior in like an old school like cosmonaut astronaut outfit with a bubble helmet and a laser gun. I was like, all right, I'm sold. Now, unfortunately for me, he also let me know that the Vril were not going to be out anytime soon. You know, they were going to be many, many moons before they were out. And because of that, I still wanted to learn the game. I still wanted to get involved because my friends were starting to get involved. My buddy Chris decided to grab Cthulhu because he's cool, so he was playing some Mythos. One of my closest friends in the world, Bryan, is very big into like kaiju and mecha Japan, Japanimation style things. So he grabbed the Japanese contingent that has all of the ninjas and the giant mecha suit that will eventually be out and all that stuff. And Ray looks at me and goes, what do you like? And I was like, well, I kind of like, I was like, I like this particular, type of walker. This is kind of a cool thing. And he goes, well, this walker works for the SSU, the Supreme Soviet Union or Sovereign Soviet Union, or I don't remember what the extra S stands for. But either way, he was like, there's several armies that use these. And I was like, yeah, but there's only what about this? And I showed him a particular model. He goes, well, that's a Spetsnaz model, and the Spetsnaz are a very particular group of army. And I was like, well, that's cool. And he goes, and they're kind of expensive, so you don't need that many models. And I was like, you're speaking my language. And so he basically gets me hooked on the idea of the Spetsnaz, and him and Gregoire, they let me know that this starter box is going to end up being like $100. And again, at that time, I was kind of between jobs, between gigs. I'm like, I don't know if I want to drop $100 on it. Well, in typical awesome person fashion, Gregoire basically handed me the starter box and said, see, now you're a Dust player. And sure enough, I'm hooked, and now I've got a whole shelf full of awesome things and helicopters and jumping dudes with lightning guns, and it didn't take long for me to buy far more than the starter box that Greg gave me. But it was because of my convention family. It was because of the camaraderie that a lot of us feel between each other that I felt comfortable enough taking this product and looking at my friends and saying, hey, my buddy Greg says this is where it's at, we should give it a shot. And so now I've got I'm having my friends spend their hard-earned money on a game that I was given the initial investment for free, so I'm not really out anything aside from maybe getting some grief from my buddies. And they're over here dropping hundreds of dollars on a game sight unseen because it's a convention. Not to say that conventions are always for spending or anything, but we all kind of go to these places. We go to these conventions with an idea in mind that we might find the one game that we want to play for a while, or I want to invest in this new thing, or whatever. And in this case, the dominoes fell the way they fell, and we decided to all take the dive on Dust. And not only was it a good idea, because again, it is a very good game, but I've made more friends through the Dust community. I'm definitely closer than I was ever before to Greg. And me and my friends have had a good time playing. And I've got a pretty long-standing commission to paint at least one Dust-related army, and I know that there's another person that was recently talking about possibly having me paint theirs as well. So it's just, conventions are so big and so important and so awesome that it is so hard to just sit back and not have them right now. It's very difficult, especially a big monster like Gen Con. I'm enjoying myself, getting to work from home. And, not that I haven't been working from home, but to get a little extra work done right now. I'm digging that. I wish that I could be at Gen Con. I'm glad that I'm being safe and that my state has decided to not be stupid and maintain people's safety, and that Gen Con as a company, they could have easily looked at the dollar value of what they're missing and really focus on that instead. But they didn't. They were like, nope, we are going to focus on everybody's health and safety and get this virus out the door so we can hopefully have a bigger and better awesome time next year. And that in and of itself means a lot to me. God, that's so gnarly looking. I actually forgot what I was going to say. She gnarled me out. But yeah, there's the conventions and hobbying. I remember I used to hate trying to paint at conventions, bringing paints with me or bringing models with me or buying something there and trying to get something painted. I used to it was the most frustrating aspect of the convention, because again, I've got hundreds of paints here to choose from, and when I don't have all those options, I feel I get kind of upset with myself that it's like you're not doing as well as you could be because you are using a limited paint supply. Or I end up spending too much money over at the Reaper booth buying paints to make up for what I don't have with me. And then when I get home, I've got 2 or 3 of everything that I need. But either way, there are different shows where at Gen Con, I would never bring stuff to paint at Gen Con. It's just too busy. It's just too crazy. Even the designated paint area is a madhouse. It is what it is, and it will never not be crazy like that. I've painted at Origins before, but normally only to to either like finish a project because there's a tournament coming or something like that. Very rarely is it ever because I want to paint at a Gen Con. Or at Origins. The show that I have done the most painting at is always Adepticon. And that is because of dear, dear friends of mine, James and Kathy Webbel. So, I don't know how it started. Like, I'm sure there's some kind of tale to be told that you know, some sort of like ancient Adepticon lore that explains where it came from. But I should tilt her back so that doesn't pool. The area under the stairs at Adepticon, no matter where those stairs happen to be, if they change hotels, it always ends up being roughly always under the stairs. It always turns out to be oh God, no, that's terrible. Let's go back to that because of the light. Ooh, yuck. It always turns out to be that there's this section of tables, a very large section of tables, where some of the best painters of the world will sit around putting the finishing touches on their projects, right next to brand new painters that have never touched a brush to model before. And you might get someone who has just the year before won $10,000 in a crystal brush, showing somebody how to use how to use a wash on the first model they've ever painted, sitting right next to each other. You know, there are people there that will charge hundreds of dollars, you know, per session to teach people how to paint. But at Fort Wapple, which is what it's called, kind of the nickname of the area, it becomes just sort of the way to get by, what you do, and it is by far one of the coolest things, and it's easily one of the things that I miss the most this summer, because we didn't have an Adepticon. If you don't have an Adepticon, you can't have a Fort Wapple, and I'm hoping that when we get back to reality, back to things the way they should be, and away from all this stupid virus, that we will get a chance to do these things again. And, you know, who knows, maybe I'll be able to bring some of my cameras and stuff with me, and you get to see some of that stuff, because that would be cool. I personally think so. But yeah, so I know I didn't get a whole lot stuff stuck to me. I know I didn't get a whole lot done on the crazy mouth morphing lady today, but it's a good start. I'll probably finish her up this weekend. Wrap up call it my Gen Con online participation award. Finishing up a commission before I move on to the next one. But more than anything, we were telling stories, having a good time, watching me paint creepy ladies with scary mouth things. But I want to reiterate and you know, call it product placement, whatever. My buddy Steve makes these things. Like I said, I'll put the information up on the description of the video. But these are so cool. If you are a paint pot user, specifically a Citadel paint pot user, and if you've been painting oil, I guarantee you've knocked one over, or I guarantee you've gone to dip your paint in the well and go, the lid popped closed. These super inexpensive, very cool, and totally worth it. You should absolutely go check them out. And I will make sure to poke Steve and keep him inventing more cool new stuff. And the more cool new stuff he makes, I'll hopefully bring it here on the show and show you guys so you can enjoy them as well. But for now, I don't want to get into another paint color just yet, because I've got, I saw the time. We need to get back over to the other rig to say goodbye for today and get everything squared away for the rest of the afternoon. Again, I hope that you enjoyed what we were chit chatting with, and you got to see these cool devices in action. Um, Next time I will be better prepared to have stuff painted to the point where I need to wash it, and then I can use them straight away here. But yeah, you're gonna see these. You will see these again at some time. I guarantee it. And hopefully you will go to Steve's website and pick even just a couple of them up on your own to give them a test run. They're super inexpensive and awesome. So without further ado, let's pop back over to the other side of the studio and talk a little bit more before we go. Thanks. All right, so I hope that was cool for you. You got to see the paint pots or the paint bunkers in action. Got to paint a little bit on the scary cult leader lady from Dust 1947. Yeah, just I always love hobby days because it gives us an opportunity to kind of relax and just tell stories and things. So I hope you enjoyed yourselves. And more than that, I hope that if you are one of the people out there that are doing the Gen Con online 2020, that you have a great time this weekend. Wish I could join you for all that kind of stuff, but deadlines wait for no man. But no matter whether or not you're doing Gen Con seminars or playing games online, or if you're even just maybe grabbing your couple of close buddies and doing some social distance gaming, whatever you do, go out there, have a good time. This weekend, we need that uplift, that positivity. We need that right now, more than just about anything, especially in my industry. But yeah, just take a second, put a smile on somebody else's face, and your own. Roll some dice, flip some cards, whatever you got to do. Just go out there and play some games. Have a good time. See you next week.